Jimmy popping all that bullshit. I be seeing you, Jimmy, talking about we Gucci boo boo. He in the Gucci store. Talking about we Gucci boo boo. Them Black King was going fuck Jimmy like Marita Moneda. Coca-Cola.
It sounds like he want to do one with 50 Cent. That's what it sounds like. It sounds like Jim.
Nah, I don't want to do nothing with that sucker. You heard? Leave him out of the conversation.
Jim Jones. Who is Jim Jones? Like, he's not on anyone's top 10 list. He's not like no one's top 10 list. Maybe not even his family.
When Jay did the remix, it was the biggest alley-oop he could do for me. I understood a lot about music, and at that time, people were looking at the wrong way, and I was looking at the right.
Jim Jones was recently chastised by 50 Cent for disparaging Nas. Additionally, he made public this rare footage that shows how Jim betrayed Jay-Z, switching from phoning Joff to requesting a deal with ROC Nation.
If I told you I was in the Roc Nation office, how would you feel about that? Huh? You think I was lying? That's clear enough for you?
He holds Nez in high regard. However, 50 has never been a fan of Jim or Jay, as you all well know. When Jim recently started bragging about how much better he was than Nez and how he had made Nez viral again, 50 took it personally.
What I did for Nas probably never been done for him in his life. He's never been that viral at all, ever.
Furthermore, 50 just disclosed more than simply Jim's disdain for Nas. It has to do with Jim's long history of treachery and cunning behavior. Jim has been going in the other direction for years, oscillating between contempt and submission, entreaty, and confrontation, especially with Jay-Z. The problem is that Jim ridiculed Jay for almost a decade. He even slapped one of Jay's executives. But when Jim needed a contract, he went back to Jay-Z, calling him a hero and begging to be signed. Now, 50 is using this chance to remind everyone who Jim really is. A man who lacks loyalty, a sincere stance, and consideration for the culture. He claims to represent. However, it is just the beginning. There is a whole story about how Jim's contempt for Nas backfired so badly that people like 50 looked into Jim's past and exposed everything. Let's look at Jim's shift from berating Jay to demonstrating compassion. Asterisk.
People shouldn't be able to say your names until they've done something in the genre of music. I've done too much in this music to even have to answer that question. Like Jim Jones, who is Jim?
50 Cent isn't hesitant to expose dishonest players, as everyone is aware. Furthermore, Jim's penchant for flip-flopping was shown by his recent comments that Jim Jones was Jay-Z's lapdog after Jim criticized Nas. In case you missed it, Jim claimed to be better than Nez. He even got into a furious dispute with Shannon Sharpe, who claimed that he was capable of outperforming Nez in the booth.
I want you to Nas, and I don't care what nobody say. I know I made a little boo-boo when you talk about the sales and all this type. I don't feel like getting into that rhetoric about where I started and where he started.
You said that.
But listen, Nas was nice when I was in high school. When I was in 10th grade, Nas came out. Nas was dope. We appreciated him. He had a little bit run. But Nas always came up second to Jay and DMX and all these other people.
But lyrically, I'm gonna keep it a stack with you.
Yeah, but look how you dress. Look how you dress. You don't even be in the same places I be in.
I can be in the church house. You can't ever Nas lyrics. I don't know who told you that. Now look, I know you on that good stuff, but you're not seeing Nas. You're not seeing Nas, bro. Let's be real.
You got a bunch of 40 and 50-year-olds in their panties because I said I'm better than Nas.
It don't matter.
Look at you. Hey, I will run circles around Nas rapping right. I will run circles around Nas rapping right now. Right now, I will run Saturn around Nas right now rapping. Everybody knows that.
Jim went all out and boasted about how, for the first time since Nas and Jay-Z's fight, he had brought Nas back into the spotlight. He was chastised by rappers for being kinder than Nas.
Ever. He's never been talked about like this ever in his life.
Now, has Nas
you did the last time he was in some this when people were comparing when him and Jay was beating on him.
As you are aware, Jim brought up 50 Cent's personal relationship with Jay, so he had to step in and remind Jim of it. And 50 did just that. He played some old footage of Jim showing up at ROC Nation headquarters looking. 50 also took advantage. Of the caption to boast about Jim. Through writing, I was questioned whether I had more enemies than friends. I pondered about it for a while before saying, yes, poor me. My accomplishment is causing me to suffer. It's funny.
I did a little something for you in the studio. Then he has something to Old Boy.
This is Old Boy's already #1?
Yeah, it's popping.
This, all right.
I listened to it and I was like, erase that shit.
Now, you would think that 50 is being petty. But his post will make more sense if you know the full tale of Jim Jones and Jay-Z's relationship. You see, Jim harshly insulted Jay-Z for 13 years using public gunshots, diss recordings, and street fights. He went all out and begged for Jay's blessing, though when it worked for him. And that's the key point. Jim's most recent Nas CD is the kind of move that is going to backfire terribly since it brings his entire questionable past back into the spotlight. But hold on. How did Jim go from taunting and striking one of Jay's executives to begging Jay to sign him? Let's return. It all started in 2002 when Dame Dash presented Rockefeller to Jim Jones and Cameron. Jim even claimed that Cam was appointed vice president of rock. Jay, however, never disclosed to the public. At this point, I'm not even sure whether I'll accept the part. Cam told The Source later that year. I mean, Dame and I are still talking about it, but I can have it. It's mine. As you can see, though, Jay gave his approval and told The Source that it isn't yet working. I think the topic is a bit premature right now. As a result, the tension existed immediately. Jay then incorporated a phrase that was a dig at Nas in his remix of Cameron and Jules Santana's song, Oh Boy. Cam decided to delete Jay's verse, but Jim and Cam refused to release the remix to the public. Later on, he stated that he would not allow Jay to use their music as a way to settle their differences.
First of all, let's get right to it. There seems to be some drama. You and The Rock, Jay-Z, you try to diss. You did diss him. I diss nobody. You dissed him.
I just Michael Jordan.
Oh man, we just having fun out here. There's no drama, man. No, we're gonna get to that. We're gonna get to that. Shout out to Dame Dash, who started Rockefeller Records. If y'all don't know, he's responsible for Rockefeller getting off the floor. That started in Harlem. You know what I'm talking about?
And at that moment, the tone was established. Jim and Cam didn't appear to be appreciated by Jay. Marked the start of the sneak peek phase. Jim started disparaging Jay more often in interviews and radio appearances, characterizing him as docile, corporate, and disconnected from the streets.
I'm
on there, Jones.
Capo.
Burning the streets up. Y'all know what it is, man. Purple Haze coming out. My dude Cam album coming out. Joel Santana, he's slated for September. You know what they call me, Geronimo Prada. Dipset, the new Black Panther. Want no problems.
Jim was adamant that Dipset's movement was raw, showy, and aggressive. Jim said that Jay was left on the streets, taking advantage of his more professional and business-like manner.
Yeah, I'm sitting clean with the bottom kitted. I hopped out, saggy jeans in my rock glisten. But I spent about $8 mommy on stage, doing the rain dance.
Jay initially didn't respond directly. However, everyone knew that there was strife inside Rockefeller. Jim publishes the song We Fly High in 2006, following the song's viral success. The term balling gained popularity.
Brooklyn get paper, so big things. We take around, they all ball game. It's over for you dames. Give me back the chain, it's over for you dames.
Jim's subsequent solo success made Jay-Z realize he had to respond. He released Brooklyn High, a remix of Jim's original song. It wasn't a tribute, though. The object was a disc.
Jim Jones, the rapper's going down. Jim Jones. Jim Jones.
Jim's ad-libs bars and demeanor were ridiculed by Jay, was cold, contemptuous, and manipulative. Jim, however, responded with the beef mix, altering the speed once again, and spoke directly to Jay, criticizing him for being ancient, weak, and out of touch. But by now, things had become fairly hot, and the hostilities spilled out into the real world. Jim was seen molesting someone at a Louis Vuitton store on security footage taken in 2008. Later on, it was found that the victim was JC's longtime A&R, Lenny Santiago. Jim was arrested for misdemeanor violence and subsequently pled guilty.
Jim Jones, man.
Hip-hop, of course, you know, is a competitive sport. But on the other end of it, it's like certain people shouldn't be able to say your names until they've done something in the genre of music. I've done too much in this music to even have to answer that question. Like Jim Jones, who is Jim Jones? Like, he's not on anyone's top 10 list. He's not no one's top 10 list, maybe not even his family. I was saying last night, it's like the 8th guy on the bench just screaming at Jordan, like, you a bum. Like, you want to be like the 9th guy on the bench. I'm not even.
Despite Jay's apparent silence over the incident, the message was clear behind closed doors. This was no longer about the rap feud. It was personal. A few months later, in an interview with XXL, Jay discussed the state of rap music today. Furthermore, he ridiculed Jim by asserting that songs like Jim's Nah 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 are to blame for the cultural decline. Like Jim Jones, for instance, Jay remarked, "Furthermore, we never agree. I don't mean this, therefore, Nah 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 was invented by him. What sets Soulja Boy apart from the face of Trey Songz? Furthermore, it may have been called a joyful face." Jay was now taking measured risks. He may not have been homeless, but he was still able to poke fun at Jim without getting his hands dirty. But after this, the conflict turned into a Cold War. The years 2010 to 2015 were characterized by fairly mild stress. No altercations or recordings. However, Dipset does a freestyle over Diddy's hit song in 2015. Both Jim and Cam ridiculed Jay and Roc Nation, referring to the label industry as puppets, mocking the brunch movement as a whole, and even bringing up Beyoncé. Cam concluded, "Affluence is not a sign of a genuine person. You were going to play my game when you came onto the field. Say my name." They attempted to revive the argument in this manner, as Shotty stated. However, Jay-Z was already a billionaire. He has started a streaming business, collected art, and is married to Beyoncé. He has also dabbled in sports management. In other words, he didn't care that Jim and Cam were still shouting from the sidelines. In a recently discovered video, Jay made reference to this, comparing himself to Michael Jordan and asserting that Jim is shouting at the MVP like the 8th guy on the bench.
Jay's longtime nemesis turned collaborator Fat Joe signed to Rockefeller, and now it looks like another former rival will be relying on Hov's team to steer his career, as Dipset's Jim Jones is allegedly heading over to Roc Nation. Capo posted a picture of bottles of Douce and Ace of Spades next to a Roc Nation letterhead on IG and told fans to caption it.
Jim realized at this point that his attempt to make fun of Jay was just making him appear stupid. Additionally, 50 Cent is Jim had a dramatic change of heart and started begging Jay to sign him. Ultimately, Jim agreed to a deal with Roc Nation. In February 2017, after 13 years of hostility, he also formally joined Jay's group. He also didn't just sign without saying anything. He started bragging that he had already rejected Jay's invitation to his Roc Nation brunch. He began praising Jay in public, an asterisk.
Now you put the lights on. If I told you I was in the Roc Nation office, how would you feel about that? Huh? You think I was lying? That's clear enough for you? Talk to me. Let me know your sentiments. You heard?
Jay was always his role model, according to any man who has ever smacked his colleague, accused him of vanishing from the streets, and made fun of him for being soft. But once again, Jay remained silent to congratulate Jim on joining Roc Nation. There were no public postings or introductory remarks. After Jim joined Roc Nation, there was just one picture of Jay and Jim together. Jay seemed to wish he were somewhere else. In this photo, Jim was eventually seated at the table, but Jay made it obvious that they were not and would never be on an equal basis. It is humorous that Jim was only another name in the Roc Nation folder. In light of the fact that, among other things, he claimed that he wasn't Jay-Z, which contributed to his nearly 10-year rise to fame from 2002 to 2017. He presented Dipset as the street counterpart of Jay's business persona and the opposition of ROC Nation. However, the money ultimately prevailed. And when Jim needed a transaction, the reputation he had cultivated over more than 10 years fell apart. Jay-Z didn't have to call him out. He didn't have to answer. Kate did not do anything except wait. Kate took the meeting, signed the contract, and continued after Jim eventually bowed. The 50 Cent argument is based on it. After Jay had endured years of humiliation, it was Jim who begged to be seated at the table. Now, if Jim hadn't made the error of disregarding Nas's past, most people would have likely forgotten about this. But once he did, Jim revealed his long history of wavering and appearing faithful, and he urged others, like 50, to speak further. There are also receipts. How much of this fallout is there?